Hello, everyone. Welcome to Peak Presence Leadership Origin Stories.
Oh,
So,
hey TJ, I forgot we were doing this morning. I was just reading. Let me get ready.
I love it. That's fantastic. So, without further ado, this gentleman, and I use that term very loosely, needs
True.
no introduction, especially if you're on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn idol,
Very
owner,
sweet.
president, and chief energy officer at Marathon Medical,
That's me.
Mi- Mike Nelligan.
Hey everyone, Mike Nelligan. You can call me Mr. Nelligan. I'm just kidding. I used to love saying that to the little kids.
And Mr. Nelligan, the first question shall be, what's your favorite color?
I kind of default to blue,
Okay, it's
but
a
I
good
don't
color.
wear a lot of blue.
No?
So then I'll go red, green, or camo.
It's a lot of colors. I often feel pretty blue, so I don't wear blue. All right.
I end up wearing a lot of gray. I learned the phrase groutfit from my daughter-in-law, and somehow I seem to wear a lot of gray shorts, gray shirts, gray socks, and go out all gray. So I'm a paler version of Johnny Cash.
Nice. Okay. Well, gray shirt, gray pants. So there you go. Trying to be like my idol today, my LinkedIn idol. All right. Well, so let's start. Tell me about Marathon Medical. What's Marathon Medical? What do you do? How did it come to be? How do you own
We
a med
are,
device distributor?
yeah, we're an independent med device rep company.
Okay.
So instead of working for one big Acme Ortho type company, we represent early stage companies with disruptive technology. What I've learned I enjoy is the energy of the smaller companies. A lot of times they have better cultures. They're funner to be around. A lot of the big Acme Ortho reps have really got to a place where they're kind of miserable and they're trapped based on their income. And so I enjoy the independence of where I am now. I've been in med device for 32 or 33 years, 26 fully independent. So I feel like it's actually safer. That's hard for some people to understand. If I was reliant on my income for one person's decision, that's scary to me. I can get
Mm.
fired by 3 companies this morning and still have other ways to make a living.
So you're betting on yourself essentially, but you're also working in collaboration with these other companies as well. So you do have some
Yeah.
dependence
Yeah.
on them providing you with good products.
Yep. And good leadership and good culture. And the companies that do it right, they don't treat you different as a 1099. The companies that, in my humble opinion, do it wrong, there is a clear difference and delineation between a W-2 and a 1099. I once had a VP of sales go on literally all day about this new way of selling something, this new program they had. He was so excited to tell me about it. And at the end of the day, he remembered that I was a 1099 and I don't have access to that. Like, what? Huh? He goes, oh, yeah, that's just for the employees, which I thought was a very odd position to take since my sales counted just as much as the sales of a W-2.
Well, the beauty is you can also decide to not work with people as well.
Exactly. We do get to choose. We interview as much as they interview us. We interview them. And we can choose to throttle back on our time and attention if a company's not treating us what we consider fairly. Just like every agreement I have, they can fire me for no reason. If they just decide they don't want handsome, charming distributor principals anymore, I'd be fired. And they can
Yeah.
do that. But so can we.
I don't know why anyone wouldn't want a handsome, charming person like yourself representing the company out in the field,
It
but
seems so obvious, doesn't it?
you know, not everyone makes the best decisions. So how did that all come? Because it's interesting that you say you think you took the safer route. Probably a lot of people would think the safer route is being a W-2 employee, which maybe it is for some people. But how did this
Right.
all come to be 26 years ago where you made this decision? Let's kind of do the in quotations my version of a safer route.
Well, my last W-2 job, I had been frustrated at the company before that, and I picked up 2 small products to sell on the side discreetly that didn't interfere with anything and fit perfectly into the call pattern, blah, blah. But I was violating my agreement as a W-2 by selling something at the side. It was kind of a wink, wink. I don't know you're doing that. If official management finds out, we're going to have to do something. But in the meantime, I don't know you're doing that. So people knew, but they pretended they didn't. And then when the company I was working for got acquired, I made a little bit of equity money, but got fired for the first time from that company, Smith and Nephew. Not the last time they would fire me. They've been a pretty consistent acquirer of companies. Um, and I thought that's what I wanted to do, represent early stage companies, get equity, get acquired, cash out. But I learned those companies don't line up necessarily. One's out, the other one starts, this one gets bought, there's another one to go to. So I just kept going with the independent route. And I picked up a very unique spine product, and I got lucky. The first surgeon I showed it to became a very good and loyal customer, and he is on my Mount Rushmore of most influential surgeons in my life. And the next time I had an opportunity to be a W-2, I turned it down and talked him into giving me that product as a 1099 because it didn't make sense to give up the income I was making from the spine company as an independent. And then from there, all of a sudden, 26 years later, here we are. And over time, I've seen a lot of the people I worked with numerous times as their role as a W-2 manager. I've worked for some people 5, 6 times, and I've seen them over the years take jobs I know they didn't like, but they were in a position where they felt they needed the stability and safety of a W-2 job. So they would take a job that was available. And many of them, I know they didn't like the jobs, but they needed a job. So I always kind of looked back at that, like good employee jobs don't just, they're not always available. I was going to go somewhere and I got distracted.
Was there a
And
leaf in the window outside? Oh,
it's
leaf.
all the dolphin and the unicorns swimming by the pier. It's very distracting.
And you're at your was it like a summer house, vacation house?
We would call it a second home. It's a small house on the Albemarle Sound. So all 15 people watching this will have heard of the Outer Banks. The Outer Banks is an hour that way.
Okay.
What I'm looking at is the Inner Banks, IBX. So that is the Albemarle Sound. Rivers are that way. The Atlantic Ocean is that way. And it's just a very, very quiet town. We sit in the back, we watch the sunset. Kind of found this place by mistake as well. And now this has been 20, 22 years. Crazy. So for you youngins like TJ, time really does go fast. There's a
Yeah.
reason old people like us say time moves fast.
You have an independent rep company in med device. Scary to a lot of people, probably scary to you at various points or anxiety provoking. And yet you've got 2 houses. So something's working.
Technically, I rent these 2 houses from the mortgage company.
Right.
Someday they will be out of the loop. Sadly, had I known I was going to be here 20 years, I would have paid this thing off in 20 years. It would have barely made a difference in my payment. but I didn't think long term. But yes, we've had a good run. It hasn't always been easy. There have been times I've in a 90-day span 15 years ago, I lost 90% of my income and survived by spending the money I had saved. Um, but I just as easily could have gone the W-2 route and been unemployed for months at a time, several times. My income never went down to zero like it might have if I was W-2. I've also interviewed a ton of people over the years. And I always think it's funny when they tell me I need the safety and stability of a corporate W-2 job. And I ask them, do you see the irony of what you just said? And typically they don't until they realize, oh, that's right. I don't have a job. And I'm interviewing with you, you loser, Mike Nelligan. That's how scary it is out there.
Huh.
No one's directly said that, but I think I've kind of seen it in their eyes.
That's pretty much what they're saying. So let's backtrack. You kind of mentioned a few times, not in these words, but almost like like stumbled your way into success and found yourself in the right place at the right time. And I think most people that achieve some level of success, they do end up saying things like that. But then it's also the action that you're putting in consistently on a daily basis. Where's that? Like, how do you see that balance in your own life?
Yeah, I would say that I did stumble into med device slash orthopedics, but I realized very quickly I really liked it.
Yeah.
And I remember having to sit down with my wife because now we had two small children and telling her things like, I will go to the Learning Center in Chicago as often as my peers who don't take their chosen profession seriously, as often as they back out of honoring their corporate commitment to supporting the Learning Center, I will go in their place. And I put the word out in my last two W-2 jobs that I'll go every single time. And I went a lot because somebody else was paying and I got to go and learn. And that's really one of the ways I learned about being an independent in med device space by running into independent reps who were also at the learning center, meeting doctors from all over the country, many of whom I still know was through the learning center. Um, and just being able to sit in with high level surgeons teaching other surgeons, because that's what the learning center is. Surgeons go to Chicago to learn. And I saw everything from foot and ankle stuff to hand stuff to spine stuff, sports, joints. I would go for anything. Um, so yeah, I made a commitment. I like this. I'm going to give it the focus and time it needs. And then I found the more I learned, the more I liked. And then one of the things that my reps hear me say a lot, once you actually like what you're doing, it gets easy because doing all the little things that you need to do to get good at it aren't hard. And if you don't, if the industry, whatever it is that you're in, if you're not liking it, you're not going to do the little things. They're going to be hard. And over time, it's going to be obvious you're not getting any better. I love getting on the internet, and there's just virtually unlimited resources nowadays compared to when I started to learn. You can become an expert in anything you want to do nowadays, just sitting in your house.
Hmm.
Like the story I told. Instead of flying to Chicago for a weekend, I, I could sit at home and watch View Many videos and surgical videos on YouTube and become an expert in shoulder arthroplasty or total knee arthroplasty or biologics, whatever.
So you hear that, kids? Yes, luck and right place at right time is a part of it, but certain people tend to get lucky more often because they're taking the actions themselves. You can't get lucky if you're not doing the right thing and out there and doing those things.
Right. Yeah. Like I always tell that spine story. I got lucky. My manager called me, said, I'm coming in on Friday, set up meetings. The one place I knew I could go on a Friday, bring lunch and get some surgeon attention was the Navy Hospital in Portsmouth, Virginia, because they do Friday lunches. So I arranged a Friday lunch. I didn't know any spine surgeons. No spine surgeon came to this lunch. Finally, one of the other attendings grabbed the spine guy and said, "Hey, there's a rep in the break room who is dying out there. He's with his boss, and nobody in spine has got to talk to him. And this surgeon is a nice guy. He felt bad for me, even though he hadn't met me yet. He came out and said, 'I hear you're here. What do you got?' He looked at it, said, 'I'll probably use it once a year.' It was such a new company. We're like, 'Yes, we'll take you up to Boston to train you.' Once he got there, he said, 'Well, why can't I do it this way, this way, this way?' And he became a huge user. I got lucky that he was a nice guy and he came out to see me. I got lucky where we were at the time that we would train someone that said he might use it once a year. But the part that wasn't luck was I knew where I could get a Friday lunch. I knew because I had relationships where I could bring my boss. And then the luck part happened on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, and you took a risk. What if he didn't come in? You
Yes.
buy
And
everybody
we've all
lunch,
been
and it's
there.
a right. Oh yeah, you're like, well, that was a complete waste of 2 hours of my life and a few $100
Yeah.
for
We
lunch.
catered a big dinner to watch surgical videos and stuff with my total knee line one time. And it just happened to be like a nor'easter in Richmond that day. And literally nobody showed up. It's me, 3, 4 reps,
Hmm.
2 corporate people, and the maintenance staff and the cleaning people at that hotel were thrilled to take home all our catered food. I heard about that one for a while.
I remember when I first got in med device. My head was spinning. I had no clue what I was doing. Just trying to figure out how do you even get in the OR? How do you get scrubs? Like all those things. You're like, what is going on? I can just go in there as a rep, like. And my boss at the time, and he one of those people that's on my wall, right? Changed my life because of the direction and the collaboration him and I had. And he goes, I can't tell you how it works, but if you just consistently show up and do the hard, uncomfortable things day in and day out, at the end of the year, more often than not, things somehow come together and you have a good year. He's like, and I can't explain it, but you don't even have to feel confident if you just keep doing it. And that was totally my experience.
And really anything, right? Um,
Exactly.
Teddy Roosevelt, the man in the arena. I mean, half of life is just showing up.
Hmm.
And then to the point, and should any of my reps who worked with me at Portsmouth Naval, as an example, again, I would train them where to park. Like if you don't park on that level and walk over to the building down that staircase and that hallway, you're doing your job wrong. Because this is where the orthopedic surgeons park, because that little wing off the parking garage goes right to orthopedics. And then if you don't walk into the hospital that way, you're missing an opportunity to organically bump into surgeons walking either direction. And it sounds silly, but once you kind of get the lay of the land, you just put yourself where you're going to see them. And I would train people walk this way at St. Mary's Hospital in Richmond. West End Orthopedic used to be out back behind the building through ED. So if I had nothing to do, I would just walk back and forth and then take the elevator from the basement to the roof, not the roof, top floor, because the OR was in the basement and the surgery center was on the top. And I knew the surgeons were going up and down the elevator. So I would just walk around, take the elevator, and accidentally bump into somebody. And then you have to have a plan because the question they might ask is, what are you doing here? So you have to have your baked in story for that. Otherwise, you look like an idiot. And I may or may not have completely flubbed that the first time Dr. Beach said to me in the elevator, "What are you doing here?"
We've all been there.
After that, I learned, oh, I'm picking up a tray because somebody used my stuff up there. And now I'm creating, oh, somebody uses this knucklehead for something. Okay.
It's funny. Man, I can relate to all of that. And even like early on, just so much fear, like knowing that that's the right thing to do, but like getting in my head, like, oh my God, it's going to be awkward. What am I going to say? What am I going to do this? But then how confidence builds just with that consistent action. And then years later, at the point, like, I don't even need an excuse. I'm going to look them in the eye, shake their hand. I'm here because I want to meet you and I want the opportunity to work with you. How do I do that? Right? If you're confident, you can say things like that. If you're not, good luck.
Agreed.
So I want to go back to, because we talked about this a little bit the other day.
Which day was
When
that?
the day when we recorded this episode,
We
but
what
so,
record? We
we
almost
recorded,
recorded.
we we had a conversation where somebody didn't hit record, and so we're,
You can
here
edit
we
this
are.
out.
It's all good. Here we are. No, we're gonna leave it in here. It's just, we're not editing anything out of this. So tell me about when you lost 90% of your income, right? Because right, we all go through various points in life at multiple times when we have hard things happen, whether financially,
Mhm.
relationship. What happened there?
Uh, we probably had like 6 or 7 lines. 95% of our income was out of 3. One of them, the spine company that I referenced, that company got acquired by Zimmer, and that was the first time I was fired by Zimmer. Then another company fired us, but hired 2 of my reps, which that's when I learned the value of actually reading an agreement you signed, because I called them and said, "Hey, you can't hire my reps. I have them on a non-compete." And the senior VP of sales said, "Oh, you're going to want to look at page 87, section Z, part blah, blah, where we say, yes, you can hire and train people that we would never have hired. And after they're competent, we will fire you and hire them." I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said. So they fired us because we stink, but the salespeople I hired were good enough for them to keep. And then we had a office fire, and no pun intended, that was lightning in a bottle. I happened to have all of my product in my office for a yearly inventory. And at the time, we owned that product. And then we would sell it off as like consignment, where the company would do the billing and they would restock the product. But I had all of my reps' products in my office. And on a Saturday, the office burned down. And I had just moved from the ground floor to the second story. And had I been on the ground floor, and when I say I just moved, like literally that Saturday, I finalized my move to the second floor. That night, the fire happened. Had I been downstairs, everything would have been fine. Because I was upstairs, the fire went up over the roof collapsed. And then between the foamy anti-fire stuff they sprayed on it, there being no ceiling, and it taking like 2 weeks to say this, what's left of the second story was safe. Anything left in there was covered in 3 feet of moldy, gross foam, which was kind of fun to put a hazmat suit on and a mask and gloves and walk through the slop and try to find stuff to salvage. So as a result of that, I had to drop that line. And all of that happened in a 90, 120 day period. And then all of a sudden I was down to like $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month coming in, and I had 2 kids in private school. So that was stressful. And I forced myself to find the fun. There were some very unique things about being in the fire industry or the calamity industry. There's people that make a living doing everything, including being insurance vultures and stuff. There was Sunday morning when we went to the scene of the fire, half the people there were there because they heard about it on a scanner or something, and they were handing out business cards. Very odd.
So you force yourself to find the fun, but you're still have barely any money coming in. Your expenses are far outweighing the money coming in. So, like,
Yeah,
how'd you
the
deal
nice
with
thing
that?
was
What
I didn't pay rent, right? My office was gone, so at least I saved that expense. um, it took a while because back, like, why didn't I just stay on the early stage company, make equity? I didn't know that this was going to happen, so I didn't have an A-level line waiting to become the number one priority for us. I could look at a spreadsheet and go back and figure out what was it I was actually selling exactly at that time. But it took a while to get some decent revenue streams back and get back on growth. So we definitely shrunk. Reps left, um, went back maybe to one or two people, and then slowly rebuilt over time, and lines come and go, people come and go. And now here we are, 2026. We're going to have a new record year, which 25 was a record year. We're outpacing that significantly. But I've also learned there's a lot of chicken left on this bone. We could go from surefire best year ever to a couple terrible things happening, and also we're back. So I try to live at that post-fire level and let the good stuff be gravy.
So, so live at the post-fire level. Explain. What do you mean by that?
When things are good, it's very easy to think they're never going to go back. So when things are really good, I think that's when you try to get way ahead so that when the bad times do come back, you can make it through that. At least for me, life has never been this. I've lost most of my income once after the fire. I invested in a surefire orthopedic company that, without a doubt, was going to do nothing but go up and probably sell for billions. And I talked my children into investing their money at a very young age in it. And people that know me will figure out what that is, but I put a lot of my retirement income into that. And that money is long gone. So now that things are good again, I'm not going to buy a really big boat and an RV and a bigger vacation home and assume that this fun time is going to last forever. Because I do know eventually we'll come back and that'll be okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of wisdom in everything you're saying. Or lessons, I think, for all of us. You've been
Yeah,
fired
I think
multiple
I kind of
times.
speak negative. I don't mean it negative, but and
I'm
maybe
hearing as positive.
yeah, I mean, Elon Musk has, not been an overnight success in everything he did. It's like, why should I? If he's not able to never lose, why should I never lose?
Well, right, you've been fired multiple times. You've lost most of your income multiple times. And I'm sure, right, those are career related, and like anyone, there's probably been other issues in other areas of your life.
Right.
But I think it goes back to what we were saying. You didn't stop, right? You just kept going. You didn't allow
Right.
yourself to probably get in that self-pity for too long. There's probably periods of self-pity. I mean, that would be natural, but you kept moving forward and everything's fine. It all is working out.
Yeah. And I still had a beautiful family and you know, beautiful wife and great kids and cute dogs. And I think maybe we had two cats at the time too. I still had two homes. We figured out it's the only time we rented this one was like for a year, and we got
Okay.
lucky. Tenants moved in and they were construction guys, and they would call us and say things like, "Do you mind if we fix the broken cabinet? Do you mind if we pressure wash your house?" Like, no, if that's how you like to unwind after work, sure, have at it.
Yeah.
So this house paid us 1 year when we needed it to, but selling it
What
was really never an option. We knew we'd figure out how to get through. And I tell people my kids were on scholarship at the private school they were at for a little bit. So someday I'll pay the school back for that.
what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten from someone?
Um, One of the founders of MyTech, who I met as we handed off a surgeon relationship from the Pew Orthotech to MyTech, And I was at my tech sales training in, I think it was 1999 or 2000. And I was catching grief because I wasn't doing group study at night with the people that sold copiers and fax machines before they got the job, where I had been in med device selling sports medicine already for 7 years. And this was in the fall in October, and the Red Sox were playing the Yankees in the playoffs at Fenway Park. And Roger Clemens for the Yankees now was facing Pedro when Pedro was the best in the game. And I had tickets. And Dick Lynch, one of the founders of MyTech, saw me literally at the water cooler, said, "How's it going, Nelligan?" He said, "Mr. Lynch, I have a problem. I have tickets for tonight's game, but I'm catching grief because I'm supposedly arrogant because I'm not doing group study. I don't know what to do." And he looked me right in the eye, and I am going to paraphrase this because this is a family podcast. And he said, "Nelligan, don't be a flippin' baby. Go to the game," which I did. And it was awesome. So in that glib statement, what I got was just do it. Don't worry about what these people are saying about you because it's not true. I wasn't arrogant. I just knew the words already. I didn't need to sit in a hotel lobby and learn the words because I had already done that work. I'd already sat on the couch with my wife learning medial and lateral and what an ACL was. And um, so that was really fun. It was really interesting to see an entrepreneur. That company was now Johnson and Johnson. He was being forced out because he wasn't J&J suit material. His answer was much more colorful. And that philosophy, just go to the game. That might be the title of my new book. Just go to the game. I liked it. We could do a whole podcast on breaking that down.
That's the name of your podcast too, right? I mean, some people name their podcast and their book the same thing. But I know I like that a lot, right? It shows the value of just that outside perspective because my perception of my own life can be skewed. But I got a trusted advisor. I run things by him. Like, no, you're an idiot. Like that's it's not what's going on.
Right.
Just go to the game. So obviously you come across everybody that knows you, right? You seem to not take life too seriously, which is a value that I mean something I really value, a trait of yours. You have fun. It sounds like maybe some of those experiences that weren't quite as fun are really lessons that you learned. I got to just have fun. Like life's short. Things are going to happen. No reason to dwell on it. Let's have fun. But what sort of role, if any, does faith in God or a higher power or spirituality play in that?
Well, I think if you have that being, you can make it very generic. Um, like you know how the story ends, right? If you have faith. So it takes a lot of the pressure off the little stuff. And after enough time, 61 years now, you realize the big stuff in and with enough time was actually the little stuff. And you realize half the things I worried about never really happened. And I just think it does create the opportunity when things are hard to remind yourself to stay in the moment. Like there's a funny story here. And with enough time, I'll find it. A podcast I just listened to. If you read TJ's book, Accidentally Pooping Oneself is featured in it. And on this podcast, this guy was telling the story about an 11-year-old version of his friend who ate a whole bunch of cherries before a family road trip. They ended up having to stop in an emergency and he pooped himself horrifically and historically. And his mom at the time said, "Look, I know you're crying, but this is going to be one of your favorite stories eventually. So you might as well see the humor in it right now." I don't know how I got from God and faith to poop, but
I love it.
that's in us. I remember when I was changing my infant son's diaper and he farted, and I looked over at my wife and said, and he started laughing. He farted, he started laughing before I did. Said, see, he knows it's funny already. I didn't teach him that. He just knows it's funny.
But I love the fact that you can just talk about poop, right? I mean, that just shows the fun that you're having, right? We don't take life too seriously. It's okay to talk about poop. Yes, I did poop my pants driving on the highway on the way to a hospital, had an important kind of in-service training for the staff. And I mean, it wasn't like like, uh-oh, I screwed up. Like a little bit came out there. No, like it was a full blown, I pooped my pants. There was no exit, no anything.
And so
Coffee
that
was running
story
through
is in
me.
here. And I may or may not have texted TJ after I read that chapter to share my version of, at least I was on my way home, but I was 90 miles from my house at an overlook, stopping to smell the roses. I stopped to enjoy this scenic overlook on Afton Mountain for anyone who knows Central Virginia. And I trusted what I shouldn't trust and had to drive down the mountain with an unfortunate situation.
We've all been there.
Now I'm
We,
not going to share this with my family. That's a podcast.
anyone out there, you're not alone. It's okay. You can laugh about it. You can talk about
And
it.
not be happy that I just told it, where I think we determined 13 to 15 people are going to see it. But
Well,
there it
I
is.
don't know. You got a pretty good following. We might be up to 18. Should probably wrap this up. No one's going to want to listen to us for more than 40 minutes. Probably actually down to 8 people after the first 15 minutes. If you and I were to die tomorrow, what piece of advice would you want to leave with everybody out there?
Just go to the game. My new tagline. Um,
Wait.
I think I've read and listened to enough old people that regrets typically are around the things they didn't do, not the things they did do. And I guess in the reverse, like maybe I worked too much. So that's a regret of what I did, but it's not that they worked too much, really, they regret. It's the things they gave up and didn't do in the name of work. And there's a meme that I've seen multiple times of someone's building outside their business, and it says, rest in peace, TJ, you will be missed. Help wanted, apply within. So we have jobs, we work for some employer, some big company, and we give them our loyalty and all our time, and we die, and they may or may not come to your service, and they replace you in a day, and you're just gone. So just go to the game, take the chance, start the business. I watched a very smart person say, if you analyze what you do for a living, whatever business you're in, and if you are in the top 51%, if you're just a little bit better than average, go do it yourself. Go start it up for yourself. Most people probably think that sounds really hard. This podcast started with 13 people. In 2 years, you're going to have a following of 10 million. You got to start somewhere. So just do it. That's what I would say. Just go to the game, follow your gut, stay true to your core principles, leave the world better than you found it. Be like all those European soccer fans who cleaned the stadiums before they left, and have fun.
Have you read the book Go for No?
I think I've heard of it. I don't think I've read it.
It's a good read. It's I actually had one of the co-authors on this podcast. A lot of what you said though reminded like of the conversation her and I had, but it was all her and her husband co-wrote it. It was based off their own life experience in sales, of all the fear of kind of missing out and the fear of rejection, and everything changed when they said, I want to get the most no's today. I want to put myself out there as much as possible and be rejected as much as possible. And but her and I kind of were laughing because we both have this weird motivation that sounds morbid, but it's like I'm gonna die one day. And today I am more dead than I was yesterday. So why not just go for everything I want to go for today?
Yeah. Yeah, I think people who don't take the time to be even just a teeny bit introspective are the ones who just show up at work today because that's what they did yesterday. They punch a clock, they go home, they don't think, they don't feel, and that's a sad, sad way to go through life. As far as we know, this is it. We don't get a second chance. If I do, I want to come back as my dog. My dogs have a great
I,
life.
I, I've been that person, and now I'm the person. My wife and I bought a early childhood education franchise, so she's the owner operator of that. I'm building this recruiting practice. Started a podcast. When you first start things, there's not much happening, right? There's not a lot of revenue coming in. So I'm doing it, but then it also induces at various times all of this fear. It's like, oh my God, what did I do? I was making good money as a med device rep. But then I try to think back to everything. Like it's everything you said. It's like, there's a reason we're doing this. It's everything we're talking about.
Mm.
Let's just see what we can do, what we can achieve.
There's just there's so many smart people out there who are sharing ideas. Matthew Ray Scott gave me this line, which is so simple and so profound. For each one of us, we have to decide how small is big enough. So, how small can your businesses be that they're big enough for you? And that answer is yours and your wife's only. It doesn't matter what I think you should do. What matters is what you guys decide you should do. And um, so, running my business, I'll never be like these huge $100 million distributorships, but we've had a great life and a great family, and we get to travel some and we do stuff and we call our own shots as much as we can. Um, yeah, then someday we're all gone. But I would like the entire world to like take a moment when I'm gone. I want there to be, crying in the streets and people falling on the ground, being so sad. I don't want there to be any commerce or business, air travel, screeching halt, 24/7 news coverage of my passing.
If I'm still here when you pass, I will try to orchestrate some kind of massive world.
Have you ever thought about, I've given a lot of thought over the years of I'll be cremated. My financial motivation is driven largely by I would like to be able to fund my children being able to go sprinkle pieces of me off or in or around certain places, like off the Green Monster at Fenway Park.
I knew Fenway Park was going to be one of them.
Sprinkle a little bit on home plate where we played wiffle ball in my side yard growing up. A little bit off the back deck of Basil's bar on the island of Mustique. A little bit on the porch of my fraternity house where I spent 4 years in the '80s at Phi Delta Theta in Richmond. There's special places, and I would like to fund that and have my kids decide who goes where, which ones they do together. I'd like to look down and watch them get arrested for throwing my ashes off the Green Monster. I'm fairly certain that is illegal, so they shouldn't put that on social media when they do it. But that would be funny. That'd be a funny way to be arrested.
I can tell you 1,000 ways to be arrested. All right, this is fantastic. Thank you, Mike. Just go to
Go
the
to the game.
flipping game. There we
Yes.
go.